Welcome to Talking in Stations. It is July 15th. Double checking that. I am Matterall here with a few guys from Talking in Stations and a special guest today. I'll reveal that in just a minute. First, co-host is Rundle today.
Hey everyone, hope you're having a wonderful Eve day and a wonderful personal day on top of that.
Awesome. Shen's here. How you doing, Shen?
Doing well. Hello, hello.
Hello. Nick Bison is joining us.
Good evening, everybody.
That's his new mic, and he sounds like $1 million, clean shaven.
All green and wrinkled.
And today we have a special guest. I'm very excited to welcome, first time in a long time. I don't remember the last time we've talked. Very rare appearance. Please say hello to Lady Scarlet from NCdot.
Hello, everybody.
All right. First things first, we're going to take care of a little bit of news. Rundle, what have we got on this video here?
Well, we got the EVE Academy, how to find a Corp. So they've put out the EVE Online team has put out one of their Academy videos, trying to help teach people how to find corporations. I know in the text, it kind of covers a lot of it. I think I didn't get a chance to watch the whole thing. I was trying to fit it in during work, but it seemed PvP oriented.
Let's watch it now.
Yeah, let's watch it. I think it's a little PvP oriented, but I think they cover the bases. So overall, I thought the production was really good. Let's take a look at it.
Finding friends to fly with opens up a whole new realm of experiences and adventures in your EVE journey. Players can form their own corporations and work together towards shared goals. These corporations can even band together into alliances, some of which are massive with tens of thousands of members. Finding a corporation that's right for you can greatly enhance your experience and give you the support you need to survive and thrive amidst the dangers of New Eden. Most corporations in EVE specialize in certain styles of gameplay, often shaped by the space in which they live. As you look for a group that suits your interests, consider the type of space that most interests you and look for corporations that call those places home. High-sec corporations tend to focus on PvE gameplay styles, such as mission running, mining, and industry. However, this doesn't mean that PvP doesn't occur for those in high-sec corporations. Groups that build structures become vulnerable to declarations of war from other player groups, and may find themselves fighting to protect their assets or even going on the offensive to attack their rivals. Some high-sec corporations even make criminal ganking of others a way of life, frequently losing their ships to Concord, but often taking their targets down with them. Corporations which call low-security space home often find themselves involved in small-scale PvP engagements, either through faction warfare or general piracy. Those corporations which are enlisted in a faction's militia will often work together to conquer space for their faction, while others may focus on a criminal life, working to free innocent passers-by from their ships and take whatever valuable loot they had on board. As with any space, there may also be corporations which aren't as PvP focused, instead preferring to avoid conflicts when they can and profit from the space around them. However, sometimes a fight simply cannot be avoided. Null security space is divided into two types, NPC and sovereign space. NPC space is owned by NPC corporations and cannot be claimed by players. Corporations here tend to be smaller and often similar in lifestyle to low security pirate groups. Sovereign nullsec, on the other hand, is home to massive player empires, which frequently come into conflict as they vie for dominance and control of star systems. Corporations and their alliances which make their home in Sov Null will often find themselves defending or attacking space in large fleets. If you're interested in participating in massive fleet fights, look for a well-established nullsec group to join. Many of these groups are happy to take on newer players. Even the smallest frigate can turn the tide of a major battle. And lastly, some groups choose to make their homes in wormhole space. Wormholes offer unique challenges as the routes to and from wormhole systems are regularly shifting and need to be scanned down. And local chat does not show potentially hostile players who may be lurking nearby. Because of this, ambush attacks from cloaked ships are common and pilots need to always be on guard. Structures anchored in wormhole space also drop all of their content upon destruction, so evictions are common as attackers invade wormholes seeking to steal the defenders' belongings. The brutality of wormhole life can make it tough to get started as a new player, but there are some corps which will be happy to show you the ropes, if you're brave enough. Once you have an idea of the type of group you're interested in joining, it's time to start the hunt. Corporations try to advertise themselves through many channels in and out of game, so there is not necessarily a best way to go about finding one. It's recommended you search around multiple channels and try to find the best corporation for you. In-game, corporations can list recruitment advertisements which you can search through. To view recruiting corporations in-game, click on the Neocom menu in the top left-hand corner of the screen, go to Social, and then click on Corporation. In the Corporation window, you then want to click on the Recruitment tab and then on Search. Here you can find a list of recruiting corporations. Carefully tune the search results to fit what you're looking for. You can choose types of gameplay that interest you, the type of space you'd be interested in living in, your language, playtimes, and even how large you would like the corporation to be. You can then click through the various advertisements on the right-hand side of the window to reveal a bit more about them. If you want to chat a bit with a group before joining or have any questions about a corporation, many groups have public channels where you can chat with recruiters. Just show info on a corporation and check their bio for a link. Corporations also advertise out of game through venues such as the official EVE forums or the EVE Jobs subreddit. Feel free to check these resources out. You can even just chat with other pilots you've interacted with in-game and ask for suggestions. Once you've found a corporation you want to apply to, be sure to double check their advertisement for details on their application process. It's not unusual for EVE corporations to request applications to be submitted out of game via third-party tools, particularly for larger corporations, as this allows them to more easily authenticate you into the various tools and IT services the group uses. Some of the IT services large alliances employ rival those of real-world corporations. In this example, you can see us logging into EVE HR, a third-party application management system used by many EVE corporations. Once you've been approved and invited to a corporation, congratulations! You can accept the invite by opening the corporation window in-game, clicking the Recruitment tab, and then clicking the My Applications tab. Once you join the corporation, be sure to review all of the introductory material they provide in the welcome mail you receive in-game, set up any IT services they make use of for communication, and start getting to know your new corp mates.
All right, there it is. There you have it.
All right. So out of fairness, on the dev blog or on the actual news article, they do say that this video is actually part of their Soldier of Fortune path. As you may remember, in the EVE Academy, they have a number of different paths, and they're pushing a number of different types of gameplay. So this one is, I guess, on purpose meant to be a little combat PvP oriented. But still, I think it was overall a pretty good video. I'm glad we got to see the whole thing. 6.5 minutes, pretty good production as well. Well, just under 6.5. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, what did you think, Shen?
I mean, overall, they did mention, we have to give them the credit that they did mention like the exploration in OSEC and high-sec missions and low-sec NPC space about missionings as well. But again, this is kind of like PvP bias, especially if you look at the footages. Of course, to some degree, it is kind of hard to get footages for mining or racking in general, but it would be nice to include a variety of things in.
All right. Well, there's one other thing. I don't think this covered it, but if you bring up a character like this person here, I'll bring up that character. And I'm thinking like, ooh, Razor Alliance. I'm going to apply to Razor Alliance. Well, you can just double click this icon here, and that takes you right in. And it takes you into their description, which is basically their info. So if you know a character, you can get right to their alliance, and then I think, and to their corporation, and then to their alliance as well. And that's just a quick way to navigate. Just click on the icons.
Yeah, they could have shown.
I mean,
that.
Yeah, for new pros, there are generally two ways of recruiting, at least for us, from my experience. One is one kind of new pros, they're into the game without any person that they've known before who played Eve. Right, they're coming in this game with a like complete new environment for them. So I think this is the kind of people that this video is trying to target. Right, you're trying to find corporations to join. You're trying to find what kind of gameplay style is best suited for you. And the other one is basically, let's say, if I have a friend in real life or who I know from the internet, I can just tell them, oh, there's a game that I play. I think it's really great. You can try that out. And generally speaking, those kind of people will get to pull into, like, say, my corporation or the recruiter's corporation almost right away after the career agents.
Well,
Right.
Nick, what did you think of the video?
I actually liked the video. I thought it was really, really well done. As far as, and I threw a piece of it in chat, as far as being more PvP centric. Well, yeah, I really don't have a problem with that. And I'm a high sec Care Bear right now, but you've still, if folks want to see more video on, the PvE aspects, you got people like Hateless Gaming and a couple others that do some tremendous work out there that you can see what's happening.
All right, finally, Lady Scarlet, I don't know if you had a chance to watch that. Do you have any opinions on it?
No, I did, and I think it's actually an excellent video for somebody who knows nothing about the game, who wants to come in and learn about stuff. We didn't have this back in 2003 and 2004 as a new player. You basically relied on word of mouth on how to do things, and I agree with I don't know how to say his name, Zhao. It could have had maybe a little more industry or suggestive, that there was industry side of it as well. Maybe it doesn't have to go in a lot of detail. It does limit other aspects of the game, but most people see Eve and they see on the commercials fighting and all that. So I'm going to assume that most that click on it, that's what they're looking for when they get here. So I think it's pretty fitting for all the other advertisement.
Yeah. So, but again, back to the Eve Academy, right? They got 4 pillars: Explorer, Industrialist, Enforcer on the PvE side, and then Soldier of Fortune was PvP. And so this video is aligned with their Soldier of Fortune career path. And so it kind of makes sense that they go that direction. I would also then say, for the most part in Eve, the thing that drives the bigger corporations or the chance for people to, get together and coordinate efforts is usually PvP. You can do industrialist stuff fairly solo. You can do explorer fairly solo. In PvE fairly solo. It's hard to go. In other words, it's hard to go in the game and find a very large corporation doing those other 3 things. So if I had to pick, all right, I got time to do one video, I'm going to probably do the PvP side of the game. It's not to say that there's not corporations and alliances focused on those other areas, but they're a minimum number of them relative to the number of PvP focused corporations. So biggest bang for the buck. That's what I would figure.
Okay, I'm going to show my noobness here. Where is the Academy inside of the client? Is it even in there?
This is part of their
the website, right?
evenline.com, yes.
Yeah, so it's not inside the game. Yeah. All right. Well, that's Lady Scarlet, I totally disagree, but I'm deferring to your vast experience on this. I was thinking that for somebody that is looking for a new corporation, I assume that's rather early. It's not as soon as you join, right? Because as soon as you join Eve, you want to figure out, like, am I worth anything? Can I contribute to a group? Why would I burden them with me if I don't know anything? So you come into a game, you learn a little bit, and within the first month, you're kind of like, okay, I need to group up with some friends and see what this is all about. You still don't know that much at that point. So when you see this video, you're looking at what looks to me like a complicated mess of dots and explosions, and I don't really conceptualize it very easily. Maybe people have already been baptized by looking at Eve and saying, I don't understand what I'm looking at, and they're not put off by that. But if I were looking for a corporation, I would assume I'm early in my career, and that footage didn't make any sense to me. I would think you need to show a hangar. You need to show a fleet formation moving, or a group of ships floating in space kind of hanging out. Something really pedestrian that we would just associate visually with like just being together, not actually. And then you can grow into like, yeah, this is how you fight and that sort of stuff. And by the way, why is this under PvP or fighting or that sort of stuff? Like, this seems to me like it would be its own. I don't know.
Well, I'm going to have to add or contradict or not. I don't know. But,
Fight me.
Rebuttal.
okay, I'm going to rebut. There you go. So this video, if I was somebody who came across this video, I'm going to assume either one, I've already seen some videos of Eve because either my friends or other games that I have played, somebody has probably linked it. So I'm probably going to do a little bit of research before I just download a game and play, right?
Yeah.
This is not for somebody. I don't see somebody getting this video who absolutely knows nothing about Eve. But, somebody may be drawn into the game or, because of things they've already seen. And they are going to be like, if they played other games, WoW, whatever, they're going to know for the most part to do anything, you're going to need a corporation. So where am I going to start? How am I going to get there? This is a good tool for that.
Right. So they're not going to be intimidated by what they see. They're not going to be confused by it. They've already bought in if they're at the point of joining a corp.
I don't think so. I mean, obviously games are getting harder than they were 10 years ago. But I think anybody that's coming to Eve has already probably played a few games and probably already kind of have understanding.
Yeah. You played games before this, right? What were you playing before Eve Online?
Well, I played Planetarian, which is basically a tick-based version of Eve. That, when I say tick-based, for those who don't know, every 15 minutes, every 30 minutes, every hour, you're either moving fleets or bringing back your fleets. You're, scanning for rocks. You're, sending fleets out to combat other planets, whatever. It's very similar. It has a lot of differences. But this is a game that was very popular back in the day of Homeworld and other games. And many players actually came to Eve from that game.
That's right. It was one of the... Is that game still going or is that one done?
Yes, sadly, it is still going. I'm shocked people still play it.
It's still going? Wow. Yeah, I'm putting up your portrait, although I think I got your full body here. Let's do something a little more... Oh, I can't move your head around. All right. Yeah, you've been playing for a long time. You did play... I can't believe that game's still going that you played before EVE Online. You came into this game, though, pretty quick, like 2003 or 4, right?
Right. So actually, the alliance that I was with was called Xanadu, and they came into EVE during beta, and they actually started the first Fountain Alliance.
Oh, they were in Fountain?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's, it's funny because it's always in the news. Fountain is always in the news, and it's back in the news today. But that was early on. And what was it like when you first got here? Was it a setup situation, or did you guys have to set up Xanadu?
Well, I joined after beta, so they were already set up.
How'd they convince you?
I don't remember. Just a lot of my friends came over, and this is the game we were going to play, and I was really reluctant because back then, a lot of people was still on that, getting on comms and actually talking to people, which I wasn't a fan of. And so it was, I don't know how they convinced me, but yeah, they did. And here I am.
Was that weird when you first got on comms?
Oh God, yeah, because they were using Roger Wilco in the very beginning.
Roger Wilco? I don't even know what that is.
It's like using a walkie-talkie on your PC. It's pretty bad.
It's like ham radio. Oh, wow. So that's how they were communicating to work strategically. Did EVE have in-game comms when you joined, or was that a feature that came a little later?
Honestly, I don't remember. I've never really used EVE comms. I think it came afterwards, though.
Yeah. I don't know if it came right. I mean, I wasn't here, but I don't remember.
After, because I came right at Caster Patch, and I don't remember it being a thing until later.
Yeah. Which makes a huge difference in this kind of game.
I think the voice comms came about a year after I started, so it would have been about 2008.
No,
the in-game voice chat.
Yeah,
It was horrible even then.
Yeah,
it was a very limited one.
I remember using it like a couple of times when our fleet comms went down, and we had to immediately find a backup, and that was like the only way we could do it. It was horrible.
Yeah, I can imagine in the middle of an op of some sort. But Eve was easier back then, wasn't it? What did you think when you first got to this game? Was it? What was your first impression about the scale of it or anything?
Well, I mean, I wasn't really a gamer when I came to Eve. I mean, Planetarian, again, I mean, I would chalk that up to no more than playing like solitaire on your computer or something, There wasn't a lot of graphics. It wasn't a lot of action. It was just basically, chatting and pushing buttons and, So I really had no idea. So this was pretty big for me when I came.
Yeah, and things moved around. But was the game easier? I imagine that the game was...
Oh yeah,
a lot simpler.
It was. I mean, Eve is complicated now compared to back then.
Yeah, you have so many imposters. I'm not sure I got the right image. In fact, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, that's a fake Lady Scarlet there. One word name. Everybody always does that.
Yeah. Look at how many imposters you have. What is that?
Everybody's trying to collect ISK or intel.
They're trying to get in on that rent money that you collect.
I was going to say, they think that rent money comes to me directly.
It doesn't? There you are.
No.
That's funny because they made the picture look a lot like you. Did you change your portrait, by the way? I don't remember it being this small.
A few times. I haven't figured out how to center it and all that. I just leave it alone.
Yeah. When I was in your corporation, I took your head and stripped it onto somebody riding a horse. You remember that?
Oh, God.
Yeah. Anyway, so you get into the game. It's a new game. You're following some friends. You're not somebody that strikes me as somebody that wants ambition and power. I think your personality is more like holding a group together.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just about having fun and hanging out with people. I've always been a person that just tries to get things done, which is what has put me in the position that I am. But I've never like actively, set out to, run an alliance or a corporation or anything like that.
So for those people who don't know you, like Matterall does, what is that position? How would you describe what it is you do and who you are in Eve? Let's go back. Let's just go back to that. Let's put you on the spot.
Many titles? Okay. So I am one of Vince's right-hand people in Northern Coalition.
Okay. I
am the CEO of Destructive Influence, which is a corporation that's been around, I want to say 17 years now.
Long time.
I am the leader of Brothers of Tangra, which is our rental alliance. And am I forgetting something? I don't know.
How involved are you with the Ladies of Eve or Women of Eve?
I'm in the channel, but I'm not really involved.
You're not an organizer of that. You're just a participant, okay?
I just sit in the channel, yeah.
Eve historian. I often hear that you're kind of like a Eve historian of types. That's another.
In a sense, mainly because of how long I've been in Eve. I mean, Caster Patch was 3 or 4 months, I think, after Eve went live. Mm-hmm. So I'm probably about as old as you can get as any active player now in Eve. So.
Right. Dice Corp looks like 300 players in it. Sorry, 300 characters in it. And but before Destructive Influence, this is kind of interesting for people who want to know. You didn't land in Destructive Influence. You came to Xanadu, and then go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, okay. So from Xanadu, though, you moved over to a different group that was a combination of, I believe, Xanadu and a different group called Arcane Technologies, or ATUC.
ATUC, yes.
Was that, did Xanadu kind of merge into ATUC?
No. So Xanadu was basically an alliance that was never going to leave Fountain. They basically had their borders. They basically policed pretty much from Syndicate to the borders of Delvin Fountain. And the only time they really went out and PvP'd was when hostiles were coming close to the Fountain borders. And our CEO at the time, name was Sism Hillity. He had ambitions to PvP, and he was part of Mace. You won't see it on my particular tune here, but I have another tune which was actually part of Xanadu, or what they call Zins of Eve, and which was basically like their agent runners, their I don't know, people who did different things in Empire for modules and stuff for Xanadu, the main group, and I was part of that. And so a lot of people in that wanted to go PvP. They wanted to do things. And we would always get in trouble every time we formed a fleet because they didn't want us to disrupt their way of life in Fountain. And so Stan made a group called Mace. And I don't remember. We had it for a few weeks, a month or so. And he really liked Bob, which was Banza brother, and what they were doing. And Atuk was up flying around with them and doing stuff. And somehow we ended up joining Atuk through him. I don't remember the details. And from there, we've basically ended up doing everything that Bob was doing.
So you were not part of Bob, you were flying around them.
At that point, yeah, we were flying around them. We were kind of like, most people aren't going to know Celestial APOC or those groups in the time. So the only people I could compare them to was maybe PL before PL became part of PanFam. Where, you know, they were the big scary people that run around shooting, killing everybody, you know, for fun.
Yeah.
And so
the Princes of Eve, I remember talking to them about that. By the way, I still have that unreleased audio. I should release it. But they were the ones to be feared at the time.
Yeah, and so pretty much we were doing that until that leader decided he was going to retire from the game. And then that's how DICE became DICE, because Stan made that. We all the people that were going to continue playing Eve basically moved over to that, and that's how we were born.
So Destructive Influence, I'm looking at your history here, and Xanadu, yeah, you're in it early 2004.
Oh yeah, I guess I was in there with that tune, okay.
Yeah, and then maybe you came late to it and then left early or something. But then way up here, you're in Arcane Technologies for over a year, and then you put in like 5,500 days into Destructive Influence. that might be
why you slack so much? Come on, just 5,500.
Sounds like she can't hold a job.
So many of my days gone.
Man, if you ever tried to apply at my corporation with a Corp history like this, I'd be fuck no, get the hell out.
Yeah, but that's the shortest.
You're gonna want to run my Corp.
I just told somebody the other day, I'm not a Corp jumper, as you can see.
Yeah, that Corp history, you're gonna want to come and run my Corp, because that's all you know what to do. It seems like.
I think she's working on developing a history for a spy, and this is just like gonna cement that she's a loyal.
There you go.
Person. Yeah, that's a very short. For the amount of time you've been playing, very short employment history in Eve. If you look at other people, they might have dozens of corporations they jump to and only span a few years, but we're talking many, many years.
That's 7. Well, actually it's 7, but 2 of those are NPC, right? So really 5 corporations and 2 NPCs. That's not too bad at all.
I think it's actually 3? Yeah, 3. Well, I don't know. Well, 3 that I remember: the Xanadu and Arcane.
Well, Mercury and Solus she's in there twice, right? So it's really 4: Xanadu, Mercury and Solus, Arcane Technologies, and Destructive Influence. Just 4 corporations total.
That's
yeah,
amazing.
and I really blame Stan for that, because he didn't know how to set up corps on proper timers and stuff like that. So.
Stan was your old CEO?
Yeah, that was we call him Stan, but his name was Stismhility, and that was before Thol took over for Dice.
Thol, yeah, that's who we talked to. God, there's some old names. Now, I wasn't privileged enough to be here at the time that we're talking about. This is all pre-2008. I was playing a different game, and not very well. Then I came to this game to just kind of live in the game and not really participate in it. But one of the things that when I arrived was one of the things that I was hearing about was this great war that was happening, and it was Bob, a band of brothers, and the greater Bob community, which was all their allies. So Bob was only 4 corporations. Destructive Influence, the corporation that you're CEO of, was one of those corporations. And what was it like being one of 4 corporations in basically the biggest guys in EVE at the time?
Oh gosh, I mean, it was fun. Like I said, EVE was a lot easier back then. So, we got to do a lot of stuff. We would go from one end of the map in wars, and you didn't have to worry about jump bridges and fatigue or any of that kind of thing. So, I mean, unless you're there, it's kind of hard to explain it,
Yeah.
But we were pretty privileged to be in Bob during their prime and be part of their history. So
Yeah. Well, the game at the time seemed a lot more straightforward. Like, you have to put up these towers, and you either do or you don't. There's no mysticism to it.
I mean, Bob was even before towers, though, so it was from station to station. And if you wanted to go from Delve to Branch, you were moving your battleships in a battleship fleet, across the map. And then you were either buying all your smaller ships and stuff from the local markets, or having to go back then was Uli was the main hub, not Jita, and so you were having to go there to get your stuff to move up there.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm still gobsmacked at the 4 corps. I just took a look at mine. I have 8 from 2006. I thought I was doing pretty good.
That is pretty
4,
good.
like, holy crap.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
So there's Bob at their prime. You're in Dice. Dice is a part of that. One of the things that Thol, the CEO of Dice at the time, was saying was, at that time, the game was set up in such a way that you literally could ask a corporation, lock down this area, and they would lock down a region, like by themselves. So a corporation, since we're talking about corporations today, seems like it was a different entity than it is now. What do you think about that comparison?
I agree, because there was a lot more put on individual corps in that day. Corporations and alliances now, I mean, any big alliance, most of your corps kind of become melted into the alliance, and like the alliance is just one giant corporation with many leaders. In those days, your alliances didn't really exist unless you had strong corporations who could form fleets, do their own thing, move around the map, defend, constellations, or, half the region. So it was a bit different.
I totally agree. What do you think of this analogy, right? Back then, we're talking 05, 06, 07 time range for me. The way I look back through the optics of time for that is that the corporations are today's alliances, and those alliances back then are today's coalitions.
I completely agree.
Yeah, that to me, that's the optics of the change of the game. The third-party tools, the outside tools. We were joking about the voice comms, just the advent. I mean, there was really almost no voice comms. I mean, the advent of all these extra tools elevated the organizational capability of the players beyond what the game was able to supply. One of those ever-present requests is please build another level on top of the organizational structure in Eve, right? Please add in coalitions into the game, right? But Eve has always kind of said, we don't kind of have to. You already got it all figured out in the third party. And even the different tools for the I just forgot the name. It allows you to dock and do some of the other basics. new system that came out. But you can't trade. You can't use the station services or the
Talking about the core, or
yeah. No, I'm
No.
talking. There's the mechanism that allows you to set blue standings or red standings to alliances and corporations, so that you could dock at your Citadel.
ACLs probably.
Access list.
Access control list, right? So access control list is a mechanism they put in the game to try to help, allow coalitions to kind of manage the in-game flow. The one thing they haven't is the actual corporation tabs, right? So if you want to go into the vault or whatever you call them, access list, that's the other one. Man, it's like I totally had a brain fart.
But in other words, you can
Well,
form different groups using ACLs
Right.
as opposed to making a corporation or making an alliance or even building a coalition.
Like if I want to hand out 100 ships and you're not in my corporation, I can't. It makes it very difficult. There's no alliance level. What the hell do you guys call them? What the hell is it called? Where you put your stuff in a station?
Hanger?
Hangers.
Thank you. Oh my
You are
God.
devolving. You are devolving
Corporation hanger.
What
in
the-
front of my
Yeah.
eyes. Like,
I'm just glad we're not sharing
I think you're gonna
passwords
lose- Oh, shit.
anymore.
you're going to lose the
Valamir,
ability to
whose
use
brain isn't bad
language.
yet? Hangers, thank you. All right, so like hangers, like even today though, oddly, you can't share alliance hangers, and there's no coalition hangers, obviously. So ACLs haven't solved that. But back in the day, there was a person you literally had building ships. There wasn't like click 3 buttons and builds 30 of something. Like, I don't know if you ever had to do any of that, Lady Scarlet, but that was one of
Yes.
the worst effing jobs, was building fleet ships. And so that's another thing that the corps had to do. You had to get 2 or 3 people and be like, all right, we're going to go fight on Friday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're building 50 ships. It was horrible.
And let me just say that our suppliers thank CCP very much for implementing those tools.
Oh yeah. Well, you just made it a part-time job. It used to be like you had to be a builder, right? Like you had to be interested in that gameplay. Now it's
Right.
shocking to me that an FC can be the same guy building Titans. Like, what? That doesn't make sense. But it does on your scale, I imagine, Scarlet.
Well, I mean, I look at it this way, right? So you're an FC and you want to implement a new doctrine. Maybe things are getting there late. You don't have to rely on 6 or 7 people to help you fit ships at the very last second for an op, right? Now it's just right click in the hangar, fit everything, and you're good to go. So yeah, that's a good thing.
In a sense, that has sped up the game too, which is something I want to talk about. But Nick, you wanted to get in here. Is there something you want to say?
No, I'm good, man. I'm just
Probably
listening
just
right
wanted,
now.
probably just wanted to make fun of me.
He probably just wanted to tell you, hanger.
Hangers, Rundle.
Well, we have access lists which solve a lot of the issues. I'm just glad I'm not sharing POS passwords to get in and out anymore.
I had some neat
Oh, yeah.
tricks associated with it. But I have to say one more thing about that, Rundle, because it was so funny. I've been there. I lose basic words and I keep complicated ones. And just to see you devolve, like, it's just hilarious.
I swear I play this game.
You're going to turn into a baby, like, in front of our eyes.
Yeah, I'm over here. The funny part, I'm crying because I was over here memeing. I was miming. I was drawing the thing and I was pointing at my screen. And, oh my God!
He was logging into Eve to figure out what it was.
I was literally moving the mouse to do it, and then someone shouted hangers.
I've been there. Oh,
Oh,
okay.
Jesus.
Well, so it seems like the game has gotten faster, and a lot of the tools and shortcuts have
Absolutely.
kind of made that the case. Would you
and
go ahead, Shen?
also not only production but also fitting the ship. Right now you have the option of fitting, let's say, I think 30 max in a set. You can fit them on mass scale as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we were just talking about that. That was a nightmare if you knew you're going to war. So things just, planning took longer to do anything. Planning to move across, other than, moving across the map, oddly enough, that was easy because of the no jump timers and no fatigue, right? You could just, and hey, we're moving, and off you went, right? That was not too bad. I have a historical question here for you, Lady Scarlet. So there was an FC. One of the things that I know about Bob is that it kind of had one of the first shit talking, yell at you FCs. I cannot, talking about forgetting things, I cannot remember one of the FCs. I think he came from Bob, but he coined the term douche canoe. He would call people douche canoes and other people. That was his term of endearment and term of anger. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I don't know for sure. That was
I cannot remember his name either.
so long ago.
Yes, it was.
But I can tell you who created the name Pets.
Oh, that's a good story. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait. First, we have to say before you say it, Pets was something that you would call allies of your enemy because it was insulting to them. Go ahead. How did that name come about?
Okay. So basically, back in the day, we're talking 2003, 2004-ish. Maybe I have to look back at my history. But anyways, when we were in ATUC, flying with Bob, there was the Russian war going on. And I want to say it was around HU, something like that, Astoria area. And the biggest thing was like their pets or their people who didn't want to participate in the war would sit and continue to mine and rat and do the things in local that they would normally do while 4 jumps over there's these major battles. Now people couldn't go hide in citadels and they couldn't go hide in passes or anything back then, so they were just like oblivious to whatever was going on, and Stan would fly around in systems and start calling them pets and start, basically that was a word to be used to insult people who were not participating in, and that is where that term came about, and now is basically used for every ratter, every miner, every sub-ally that somebody might have in Eve.
I think it was leveled at like a Russian crew, wasn't it? And
yes, it was.
They got furious.
Yes, I'm trying to think of the gentleman's name at the time, but he was literally so mad that he raged in local for about 40 minutes, and then we got him on comms, and he raged again for about another hour, and yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, this name works to make people mad, so we'll keep it. Yeah.
So you have Stism, Hillity, or Stan to thank for the word pets in Eve.
Yeah, that's a good story. All right, so it's been a long time since Bob. I know we keep bringing it up because it seems pivotal. If you ever read Empires of Eve, you know who Lady Scarlet is. You also know who Bob is and their story and the rivalry and kind of them dominating the whole first chapter of the game, basically. Since then, that was a long time ago. For you, what has been the biggest change, like, personally in the game? Biggest trend change, if anything? Or can you even compare?
Sorry, I think I missed part of that question. What am I comparing?
Well, what's the biggest trend change? Things that you used to do back then that you don't do now, or things that you do now that you didn't worry about? Is there anything going on that theme of what's changed in EVE Online? What's been the biggest thing that's popped into your head?
Okay, well, I mean, I could go back and tell you that back in the early days, we used to mine in apox. Yeah, mining in, mining in rock walls wasn't a thing. But the biggest change, I think, for me is, the roaming. That's something I've always loved to do. Maybe wormhole space is probably the closest thing to it now. But since Citadels, passes, all that kind of stuff has been introduced, that's for somebody that's old school. Those things are not necessarily as fun as the things that we did back in the early days, but, it's not to say that they can't be fun. It's just my preference is to, do that kind of stuff.
All right, we have a question from the audience, and I encourage all of you to ask questions in the audience if you have questions for a long-term and legendary player like Lady Scarlet. We'll talk more about her career in a minute, but here's a question from the audience. what's the secret to playing this game long term without burning out?
Okay, well, I used to play this game about 18 hours a day. And so burnout was there a long time ago. But you learn over time that you don't have to be on, thanks to pauses and citadels and other things. That you don't have to sit here all day long. And Discord's like the greatest thing on earth because it just pings your phone, right? So yeah, you can have a life outside of Eve, which means you don't necessarily have to close it and walk away for, days and, to come back to have fun. So.
Well, that's true. Eve is now in your pocket, right? It's in your phone. And that wasn't the case in 2008, was it?
Yeah. I mean, back early, when I also had less responsibility, so I could stay up all day. But you just get to a point that, you do all these ops until God knows when, and then you get older and say, well, I can't do this shit anymore. I have to, have a proper bedtime or get up in the morning and, be an adult. And so, yeah. I just, people continue to make me want to play it, but I've never got to the point where it's, okay, I'm going to delete the game.
So avoiding burnout is essentially is basically saying this can wait. Eve is not a burning question I need to answer right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. There's another question.
Bobby Atlas.
We'll save it for later. Yeah.
Bobby Atlas.
Bobby Atlas. It popped into my head. Bobby Atlas.
Oh, the douche canoe.
The douche. Yeah.
Bobby Atlas was Smell in Atlas Alliance. He wasn't Bob.
Yeah,
right.
I was told. Yeah, that's right. I for some reason thought he came from Bob. Someone told me that, but Bobby Atlas, who was but there was an FC in Bob who was well known for screaming at people on comms back when they were just coming out.
So there was Diana Bollock, there was Farjung, there was TWD, there was obviously Mull, but he always called everybody ladies, so he didn't really scream at anybody.
Sir Mull.
But like every alliance, you have many FCs come and go, so who knows? There was probably a bunch I don't remember.
Yeah, one of the first times I ever got screamed at was by a Bob FC. For some reason, I found myself in some ancillary fleet with them on comms, like literally one of the first times ever. And I think why I have the connection to Bobby Atlas on that is because after that, I was involved in that whole alliance, and Bobby Atlas was the main FC. And then from there, my being yelled at went on to a AAA with Makalu, which was a very famous yeller.
Did you ever experience Twinkie 69 or?
Oh, Super Twinkie?
Super Twinkie.
Super Twinkie.
Oh my God.
He was funny. Yeah.
I thought he was funny.
I was like, no, he's not. Look,
PTSD.
Okay, so Super Twinkie, love him or hate him. If you pissed him off and you were blue, you would lose your Titan in that pause. So
he would kill a friendly.
He would apologize before doing it, but he would kill it. So
yeah, there was something different about that guy. He was a different level of scream. He reminded me of a Tasmanian devil.
Yes.
He was a whirlwind of
somebody who had one too many Red Bulls before he logged in.
Yeah, before Red Bulls were invented, though.
Oh, he was mainlining them or something. But he was anyway. I'm over simplifying it and stuff. People liked flying with him. He was a big FC for NCdot, wasn't he? At some point.
Yeah, him and Soho. Yeah.
Yeah. Top Bros days. There's a lot of guys that have gone through NC now that I think about it that are no longer around, but at the time were the FCs. They were the guys that you'd get into brawls with, or bomber FCs or whatever. And it was interesting at the time because I remember kind of looking up to them, and not that I look down on FCs now, but I don't look up to them anymore like I used to.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's just a different time, and a lot of these people came from different games and stuff, and so they saw things differently than we do now. You know, not to say that those guys were any better than current people per se. It's just, Eve had different tools back then, and different ships that were more popular that made things a little more fun than maybe necessarily now.
Yeah, it was different times, created different players, created different relationships with those players. And now I feel like the FCs are probably better than they were back then because they're so much more sophisticated. It's like sports. When you watch sports as a kid, tennis was played with wooden rackets. That was a long time ago. And it was just basic, but now
everything is more strategic, Not to say it wasn't strategic back then, but back then, somebody could call for a battleship, long-range battleships, and it was a mixture of all races,
Yeah.
And now, it's you have to have this very specific ship fitted very specific way, and you're going to anchor on this person, or you're going to do this, and if you don't do this, you're probably going to get thrown out of fleet or shot or whatever. It's like completely different.
Yeah. There's another good question here from the audience, from Loath. Why do we no longer have leaders like Evil Thug of old school AAA? And there's a number of names you could rattle off. So what is it? Just they burnt out, or can you analyze that? Like, why don't we have that kind of?
Before you answer that, Evil Thug, let's talk about him a little bit, and then Lady Scarlet can embellish. But he was AAA, one of the founders of AAA, if not the founder. And he came out of Curse, I believe. He was one of 3 Russian FCs, and they broke apart and formed Red Alliance and then AAA and whatnot. But Evil Thug was, funny enough, when we had Sir Mole on Talking in Stations, it was a rare appearance for him. I think it's the only time anybody's seen him in 6 years or something. He came on, and I was like, is there anybody you would like to be on with you that you could talk old times with? Is there anybody? And he said, Evil Thug, can you find him? That was the only person he asked for. And I tried to find him, and it was hard. Not only is he a Russian player, but he's just gone from the game I found out some things, but it was hard to track him down. Anyway, but talk about Evil Thug and why we don't have leaders like that anymore.
So again, we're going back to a different time at Eve, and we're also looking at the age of those players, right? So many of these leaders back in the day may have been 20 years old, or, just starting college or just starting families, and then families hit and they're forced to retire. I can't speak for Evil Thug per se, because I never had a working Eve relationship with him. I've always pretty much been on the opposite side of AAA, but I can speak from the alliance leaders that I have flown with and some of our allies, and know why they take breaks or why they're not around. And pretty much it's the same thing. Either they get tired of the game, and they need to do other things, or they've grown up enough that they have to do real life. And as we see, even many of them come back later on and like, why did I sell all my stuff, or why did I do this, or why did I do that?
So it's really just more of a time-based thing, and just people growing old, changing, just the ebb of time versus mechanics or game design or anything like that. That's really, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the leaders now that we see, are like the next generation, right? They're coming in from other games. A lot of them are younger. Eve is a lot different than them. So some of them I would have ADD in Eve. They're looking for that quick fix, that quick fun, but they're not necessarily long-termers. And so therefore, once they're bored of something, they just move on. So
they can't survive the boredom.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That was something I actually talked about that. And the game seems to be catering to them with a lot of that quick action. Let's get you involved fast. Let's give you filaments so you can teleport and look for stuff. You don't have to go fly out there. But the speed of the game has gotten quicker. Let's get players to the action as quickly as possible. Let's do everything we can to design that for them. and reward that for them. So let's get you into PvE and make it challenging, and let's reward you for getting out there and playing the game in a PvP type of style. But what CCP is kind of missing is that downtime where it's just kind of a smolder, where you're waiting for stuff, the silent time, the little bit of mining that you're doing while you're in between campaigns or something. Kind of miss those moments.
Yeah, Loath was kind of refining his question here, and he's basically saying, like, it's a little bit about the mentality of it as well, right? Where Evil's war declaration on the forums was simply, go die, right? So,
well, that might have been limited English, but
yeah, maybe. But I think he's talking about personalities, right?
Yeah,
Where
he was known as a brawler FC.
Yeah,
like, few words, lots
guy.
of action.
Yeah, and I think that just comes down to personality. I think you find some of those people. I don't think there's any mechanics or any one thing that's changed necessarily or is preventing someone being like that. There's some pretty straightforward talkers now.
Yeah. I mean, I can go back and I can look at Mull, right? When Mull was getting ready to go into a campaign, he would write like a whole story or have an event, like an Easter egg hunt or something before the campaign to build up to it. But I think that a lot of that come from his previous game style, a little bit of role playing. Early days, we didn't have Reddit, we had forums, and so there was a lot more storytelling and a lot more, I'm trying to think of the word, psych ops going on in the forums and stuff between leaders. Now, certain leaders, and I'll even use my own leader, Vince, he doesn't really care what people think. He doesn't feel like he needs to go on to a forum or Reddit or something and make any proclamations or whatever. He just does what he does, and either people follow it or they don't. And so there is some mystery because you don't know what he's thinking in a sense. But then some people think, well, maybe he doesn't have personality or whatever because he doesn't do these things. But everybody's different.
Well, let's talk about that since you brought it up. Lately,
oh joy!
Lately, you had USTZ. I'm gonna just put it out there. I'm a little biased on this issue, but and you'll see that. But
just spit it out.
USTZ FCs, a group called Sinners, took off, but they didn't leave quietly, and they didn't leave in an amicable way. They kind of said, you guys, Vince, you're listening to a coward Nidisbar, and we're out because we're not cowards, and we're going to go play this game like it should be played. And anybody who thinks like us should come with us. In fact, all these old time leaders should be fired because, hey, they're actually preventing you from playing the game. How do you see something like that?
All right. So I am going to be as fair in this assessment as I possibly can. I'm not going to filter because Vince is my leader, and I'm not going to filter because I have friends over there that I'm trying to please, any of that stuff, right? Yes, they could have handled their departure a lot better. And when I say that, they have a CEO, they have somebody who's a diplomat. If there was any people feeling like they were being held from doing anything, they could have went to Vince anytime and said, you know what, hey, we need to have a meeting and discuss the things that we like or dislike. And Vince has been very open to anybody in our alliance at any time to have those conversations. Those conversations never happened. Now, were they unhappy with Nidus? Sure. But, anybody who knows FCs knows that egos go both ways, right? Nidus has his own, so does some of the FCs over there. And not all FCs tend to get along very well. There's kind of that EU versus US time zone thing. But it is what it is. It's how you deal with it, right? And so some would say that maybe people made a bigger issue out of things than they should have, but people are entitled to their own feelings as well. But how do I say this?
Straightforward.
I'm trying to be straightforward.
I know.
You know, were their reasons and comments justified? In many cases, yes. But I will go back to say that, Bob convoed me, told me that their corp was going to take a vote in leaving. I said, okay, maybe you should talk to Vince. He did PM Vince. Vince was not available because his Wi-Fi wasn't working. The next day, I think it was the next day, I ended up in a conversation with Bob and Romulus on our Mumble, having that same discussion that, before their corp packs their bags and just leaves. And my reasoning for this was, if they were unhappy about stuff, let's give Vince a chance to hear them out. What can we change? What can we do so they wouldn't leave? Obviously, I had selfish reasons for it because I like flying with them. They have good FCs. They're a fun time, a fun group to hang out with. But their minds were already made up. It wasn't going to matter what Vince said because they were already moving their stuff out. Okay. So they can kind of, go with the, we try to do things right. But, again, you're talking about FCs acting as diplos and CEOs trying to handle a departure versus the CEO having a proper conversation with leadership and doing it their way. So they were a little erratic in how they did things. Again, I'm not saying they weren't justified in their personal beliefs. I'm not going to try to change their beliefs, but coming from somebody who's been in this position many, many times with many, many corps, I will use Taylor, I will use VDD, I will use MV, who have came in and out of NC many times, who have always been welcome back. At least gave Vince the respect of having a conversation before deciding to leave, expressed their views, gave them an opportunity to talk to them. They left on good terms, and they've always came back.
Yeah. VDD, my heroes. Love those guys.
And just to put out there that one of their members was just accepted into a high-ranking FC group of ours just days before they decided to pack their bags and leave.
So somebody got promoted from the corp that left, and they left anyway?
Yes.
So you think their mind was already made up and it was just a matter of formality and they were just really...
I think that they were
tiny.
Unhappy with the war. I think they were unhappy with particular people in our alliance and particular people in other places. But like we just had that discussion earlier about corporations and alliances and the boredom that comes along with wars and stuff, I think that they... kind of had a little bit of ADD and decided that they needed to go do other things. And, okay.
They don't have that long-term resilience to sit tight, right? Like, and there's valleys and there's peaks in the game.
And good for them. If that's what they want to do, I hope they have a lot of fun doing what they're going to do. But yeah, I mean, it just comes down to, the things that people remember you by in Eve are your actions, your honesty, your truths, right? And when you do things certain ways, that's how you're going to be remembered. And unfortunately, this is one of those times. Right.
Now, it's very clear that USTZ, and this is very strong in NCdot, not the first time. Well, maybe it is. Well, the USTZ FCs are a lot different than the European FCs, I think, in my opinion. I had 4 years of experience there, and would you say was that a fair assessment or not?
Okay, so I'm gonna go with some of our Euro FCs are more old school. They have certain ways they do things. You're not going to have a lot of chatter in fleets. You're going to have people who are very secretive in their tactics. You're going to have people who maybe not talk to a lot of people because they don't want things to leak. You name it. There's a way that they do things and it works for them, right? But then our U.S. time zone, and it doesn't. And this is not just sinners, right? We had this with Burn Eden.
Yeah,
We've had this with other groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
U.S. people tend to be a little more talkative, a little more hanging out kind of feeling, and maybe a little more open than we should be sometimes in the things that we're doing.
They're like in-flight entertainment is what they are.
Yes, and so it really comes down to a preference. What you like. I know you specifically prefer to fly with Euros, and I get it. I know you personally, so I understand. I don't have a problem with flying it either. When you're in fleet, you just do what the FC tells you to do, and there you go.
Yeah, but I mean, look, I'm totally willing to fleet up. I'm totally willing to do what the FC wants me to do. I will salute. I will do it all. But don't make me listen to your bad jokes. That's not fair, because then I'm going to mute you, because me and mute have this relationship.
Yeah, but even Killa B will sit there and talk about WoW and Fleet, and I don't want to hear about WoW. I'm playing Eve, but everybody's got their little thing.
Okay, so not all Europeans are machinery cold. But no, that's I think, and some FCs can be downright not worth listening to, because they're either abusing somebody or they're making a joke at somebody's expense. But I don't like NC's U.S. time zone, because it feels like a cult of personality. Like there's this FC or FCs, and they have these fanboys that hang out with them, and then everybody's on this little in-flight entertainment, and all you want to do is get through your fleet. Like that's what bothered me about it. But
I mean, I guess I've seen the same thing with other alliances in different time zones. There's always just hop down in another channel and wait for orders if you don't want to sit and listen to all the blabbing going on in the thing.
I might have missed that.
But it's just different personalities.
Different personalities, yeah. Well, anyway, again, that's, to me, it's a kind of a contrast between some US FCs, and they seem warmer and more wanting to engage with the fleet and play with the fleet, and then the Europeans that seem a little more business oriented, and you'll know what you need to know when you need to know it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good assessment.
So it's a difference in style. I think the big complaint here is that Vince basically backed the Europeans and said, that's the right approach to this siege situation. You got to take it slow. Otherwise, we'll burn ourselves out. I imagine this is for me, not Vince, but if you go ahead.
I can't go into specifics, obviously. I'm not in the war planning spot, right?
Right.
But I can tell you that Brother Bob had the same access as Nidus in a channel that really consisted of about 4 or 5 people for NC in regards to this war. So anything that he may have been unhappy with or anything he wanted to change, he could have had conversations in that channel, regardless of who he got along with or didn't get along with. Those conversations never happened. When this war started, Nidus was put in as the commander, or I guess, of the war for NC, the strategic planner. So he has certain hats he has to wear in regards to our alliance. As a lot of people know, Vince can't be here 24/7. And he can't be here sometimes, 3 or 4 days at a time. And Nidus was kind of filling those shoes for Vince in that particular mode when Vince was away. Didn't mean that he necessarily had more authority than anybody else. It just meant those were the roles that was given to him at the time. Now, that could have been completely different had Bob had more time to do things, had Bob suggested doing a certain type of campaign, that he wanted to do, but we weren't in a position at that time, because we're still in this war, right? But Vince has always been fair when an FC of his type of position wants to do things. that he's allowed them to take the reins and do it. Bob didn't get that chance per se, but we've been at this for a year, and so it's not to say that it wouldn't happen down the road. He did it with Super Twinkie, he's did it with Soho, he's done it with others. He's allowed Romulus, which is one of our Blopsoft guys, to take reins to do things on the side. He's allowed many people to do a lot of things. But those conversations have to happen. And if those conversations don't happen, then you're going to be kind of doing whatever everybody else is doing, or working under people that maybe you don't want to work under.
Right. So so they had a chance to make a case. For whatever reason, you think they didn't make a case, and they just decided to go their own way, and that's unfortunate, I guess, for NCdot.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to bash Bob, right? Mm-hmm. But Blazing Bunny and Pittsburgh, were the two most active FCs for our US time zone, for the last year. Bob was here in the beginning. He took a break. He came back for about 4 months. And now, this is where they're at, right? Where other FCs have been here a little longer. So, do I think it's fair that he's casting judgment on other people when he hasn't been here the entire time? No, I don't. But that is my opinion. He may think of it otherwise, and that's fine. But we have to look who's been here the whole time.
All right, some questions that are attached to this, right? Because these are the larger questions, right? The Corp leaving, okay. The war, bigger deal. How does what is NC's situation in the war right now?
Same as everybody else's. The war still, so you have goons basically, confined to a pocket. We live practically next door to them.
And by the way, they think they won. I've seen comments on YouTube.
In a theory, I could see their point, right? They got how many keep stars in their home system? They have all their capitals in their home system. They have all their members in that system, and the way EVE works now, trying to jump 3,000 or 4,000 people into a system that already has 6,000 people in it, what is going to happen? The game is going to crash, 700 people are going to load, and then what are we going to do, right? So, you have to, war is a waiting game, right? And this war, in a sense, many think it's over. Are we going to pack up and go back to Malpass and do nothing? No, there's nothing to do there. So we will continue to do what we're doing and get the fights that we can get, and probably do some field trips and other things. We have jump clones here. We have ships here, so nothing's really going to change, at least for the next few months.
Is there anything else that shouldn't NC basically say, oh, look, we lost a corporation of guys that wanted to go have smaller fights. Shouldn't we get out of this war to go and have some fun for the guys instead of sitting here guarding the gates to 1DQ, let's say?
But people are already having fun and doing things on the side. And that's what didn't make sense about this whole thing, because we have people doing Black Ops. We have people doing ganking in Empire. We have people who, are freely able to do other things if they want to do them. And had, sinners came and said, you know what? I'm bored sitting here. Can we set some jump clones and do something on the side? It could have been talked about, but, again, those conversations, didn't happen. So
I wonder what they're going to look for. Maybe they're going to fight. I think they were going to fight Sado and Wrecking Crew, or his group is actually Dread Bomb.
So a little of their history, and I'm pretty sure they could go more into detail with that. But, they kind of come from LoSec. They were with Shadow Cartel before. So this is nothing new. When NSH was helping us, we did wormhole ops with them and did other things. So, it's just not nullsec camping and nullsec waiting out and, Citadel bashing and that kind of stuff. And so, it's what they want to do.
Right. But I just wonder, like, how limited is that strata of gameplay? I wonder what they'll
Well, if
find.
you own a bunch of capitals and you like sitting in low sec, I don't know.
Well, there's
How
a few
fun is that
groups-
going to be?
few groups that do that. Snuff does that. And SH, I guess, who they're joining does that or will do that. And RC does that as well. But I wonder how long that rush is going to last, I guess. See, the way I look at it is this war just to me feels like end of days war. Like this is the war of our time. And so why would you say, oh, let's go do something else? That's like saying the climax of the book is just another chapter. How do you see it? Am I totally lost on
So
this
when
one?
you say go do something else, are you referring to them, or are you talking about
Yeah,
the
no.
side things everybody's doing?
Not just corporations, but not the side things. No, I'm talking about the commitment to stay at the gates, to stay on top of this mission that they've started. Pappy is who I'm talking about. Why would they take off and go do something else? Like, people are saying, hey, this is no people, critics, and I think Imperium people, but also maybe some Pappy people or people who aren't even in this war are saying, Blue Donut, why do you guys want to do this? It's boring. Look, you're killing the game. The numbers are going down, etc. There's all this counter pressure about staying on the mission, staying on target, even if you're in a lull phase. Go and relax for a while, but we're still on target. This is it. This is the war that we've been waiting for.
I mean, if you ask Bob, he wanted to go in head first and get the war over, let's go kill him. Let's throw everything we got at him. That was kind of his way of thinking. And, fine and dandy, but, you're looking at, there's a bunch of scenarios going on right now. You're talking about Europe where, everything's starting to open and people can go have a little bit of sunshine, into COVID, in a sense for them who's been, locked in their homes and unable to leave without getting arrested or ticketed, that plays in numbers, and everybody's bitching about Eve numbers. Well, guess what? People are starting to have a life outside of sitting in their computer, 24/7. You also throw summer in itself in there, everybody, all groups, including goons, including, their allies.
It's always been a downtime, right?
Yeah, summer has always kind of been a lull. So, some people can say, oh, well, because it's a lull, we can do this. Well, guess what? There's people getting married, there's people going on vacations and stuff. And as good as that sounds, it's not necessarily always possible. Can it happen? Sure. Are we going to mandate everybody needs to be logged in for the next 2 weeks to try to do something when these things happen? It's unrealistic. And so, I just think that they didn't see they didn't see it the way they wanted to see it, and they didn't agree with other alliance leaders and their strategic plans, and so therefore, them it was an end for them.
I feel like Sinners represents some players that are video game players. They're here to play and to have fun. And then there's, I think, like people like you that are like long-term Eve players that understand the length of this whole story from 2004 on. It's a long and slow burn, and you're going to have slow moments. It's almost not a video game to people like us. I'm going to put me in your group. Take a little privilege there, because we see it as an ongoing story, as opposed to a video game that you play and then you turn off, and then you go play a different video game because it's exciting. This to me seems like every day you're writing a page in this book. Shen?
Also on that note, it's not like Delphi is only a war zone right now, at least from what I know of. So we're trying to clean up Stain. There's entire region owned by Imperium, right? Impasse is entirely owned by Imperium. There are tons of things to do. It's not like you're just sitting outside the one constellation and staring at it for 24/7 for the next half of the year, right? So there are a lot more things to do.
Right. Okay. So another tough question, Scarlet, and then we'll end up pretty quickly here. But NCdot, are they in trouble now, or what's the temperature inside of NCdot?
You know, does it suck we lost US time zone FC? Sure. You know, we've been through this many times, as people know. You know, is it going to cause NC to fall apart? No. As people have seen before, when
no, but we heard that there's fragments of
I know.
people.
I've been told we should disband a few times this week by outside sources.
Okay.
You know, the thing is that we've always had people fill in the gaps when the gaps need to be filled, right? And we just welcomed back Serenity 888, which is a VDD player who has FC'd many times on US time zone and our AU time zone. When needed, you know, I'm sure we'll have the people who alarm clock that need to alarm clock if it's needed. You know, and just like, you know, other corps in the past who have gone and been replaced with groups like Center, you know, somebody will fill their shoes. So I'm not really worried.
Yeah, you actually don't sound worried. You sound a little sad.
I'm not.
You sound a little sad.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, it is sad because, again, you know, they're people that were very well liked and, you know,
By some people.
no, actually, you know, even like Vince,
That's
you know, and this is a sad, everybody's like, well, Vince is ping. Okay. Well, let me just explain Vince's ping for a moment, right? You're talking about a person who is on a 10-hour flight that comes home to the middle of this, right? Who is blindsided by the fact that the majority of their corp has already moved all their assets. He is blindsided by the fact that Romulus and I had conversations with Bob, and Criterion was never mentioned. He found out from outside sources that they were leaving, not really putting two and two together that, you know, Cry is kind of Center's junior, if you want to call it that, the meme corp, whatever. You know, they have a lot of titles. But the fact is they didn't PM me. They didn't PM Vince until after Vince found out. You know, so there was a lot of things going on at that particular moment that really upset him. So he was entitled to his feelings. Yeah. The next day, you know, Vince, you know, had some other comments, not like his original ping. And then on Monday we had a meeting, and the meeting, you know, anybody who got the recording of our meeting or was at our meeting will know that Vince sung them really high praises for the time that they put into NC, including Bob, you know, but he will also tell you that, you know, the way they handled it was wrong. And so, yeah.
Amazing what a night's sleep will do, I guess.
Yeah, you know.
But they in the audience here are saying like that's not true. They didn't move anything until Vince's ping.
Well,
sure.
I don't know who Uncle Spanky is, but we actually have allies, and people saw you guys jumping your caps out and other things and stuff. So,
okay. So, what about this poaching thing that was talked about? Is that just overblown or?
Yes and no. Mm-hmm. So, Criterion is the corp that we know that was supposedly poached. Again, nobody was informed, even though at the time Bob had ample opportunity to tell us that they were leaving with them, which was not mentioned. Again, we found out from outside sources that they were leaving with Sinners. So obviously that looks like a poach to people who know nothing about it. And I can say for a fact that I had members in my corporation that were contacted by members of their, not leadership, but members. And I'm pretty certain there was other people that were poked, but, you know, again, that's up for each to, you know, speak on. So.
Yeah. Well, poached is saying, poached. Sorry. The corporation Criterion is saying that they weren't poached. And that may be true. But when communication breaks down, people make people fill in those gaps, and you can't blame
Exactly.
them for filling in those gaps. So they're going to make strong decisions, and they're going to make them fast.
And it's not like these decisions were made, that weekend, right? We're talking that this departure was discussed at Lloyd's wedding, which was 2 weeks prior to us being told. They had 2 weeks to have a conversation that they were thinking about leaving before they even had a membership vote.
Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, again, didn't want to dwell too much on it, but it's nice to kind of get both sides. At some point, is there going to be an NC side of things, or are you guys just saying, let's just forget it, move on? Say nice things and move on. Is that what you're doing?
I'm confused. Restate that.
Is that I'm confusing? Is Vince's next step not to mention it anymore? It's kind of a done deal.
I mean, I think we're at a point that this is beating a horse. They are doing their thing. We're moving on. Yeah. So, yeah. I wish them well. Other people, might wish them well, may not wish them well. I don't know. I can't speak for them. But I think, at this point, this is just last week's news. So.
Right. NCdot's not leaving the war.
Also,
Is that right?
I have a question. So since Original Sinner was part of Sebastian and the TNT before, so was there any hesitancy from their history or their background going into World B too?
No. We didn't have any. I mean, they were treated just like everybody else and had the same access as everybody else. So,
Or I mean, from their attitude towards they don't really want to fight Imperium in that sense because they were allies.
No, I mean, if you look at their kill boards, you can look and see that they were more than happy to shoot goons, and I don't ever think there was any question about that.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But did they try to join the initiative, looking for a way out of NCdot? Because that would be an interesting move, right? Moving to the
I
enemy?
don't think so. See, the biggest thing is everybody keeps saying that they were banned, right? Vince, found out and he instantly banned them. Yes, they did lose their Discord, and yes, they did lose, access to our services and stuff like that. But they were still blue. They still had undocking, docking rights. They were allowed to move without a problem. Whatever stuff that they had left. So wasn't really that big of a deal, other than the fact that they just didn't talk to people.
Well, what gets me is they're going after Nitispar, right? Personally, and they make no bones about it. And I'm thinking, dude, Nitispar is like a legendary player in EVE Online. That guy is not only a theory crafter and FC, but he's a storied guy. And to basically call him names or whatever, I just thought it just doesn't look good.
I mean, it's an ego thing. Nidus has his way of doing things. He has his way of speaking to people. Some people don't like how he talks to people, but text and words on a screen don't necessarily always relate to people's emotions and feelings. Has he been harsh on people when they've screwed up? Sure. But the same things that they accuse him of, some of them are guilty of similar things, just in a different way. And so, it's an FC thing. I don't know how to explain it, but this happens in every alliance. It's happened more than once in our alliance when you have two very strong-willed people who have their beliefs and convictions. It doesn't always mix.
Yeah, in a situation that has two different strategies that are being considered. One is rush the gates. The other one is starve the town behind the gates. Seems like those are very different propositions.
Exactly. And the thing is that, like him or hate him, Nidus has a proven history, and that's why Vince continues to pick him to do certain things. Bob hasn't been here long enough to be put in those positions. So therefore, we don't know if he could have done that or not, but had we gone into a different war at a different time, he might have been put in those positions and tested. Travis was put in those positions when he was, the US FC, on a campaign that the alliances were mostly US time zone. Other people have been put in those positions, where Nidus was not. But yeah, we'll never know because, they've moved on. So
Do you think that's partially just one follow up here is like if you look at NCdot, right? There's a core group of corporations that are the bulk of the 1,000 or so members, right? And those corps have been around for 5, 6, 7, 14 years sort of thing, like with you, right?
right.
Or 10 years at least, right? So 10, 12 years, 6 years, 5 years. I mean, there's a lot of time to build up long running, friendships and stuff. And then when you kind of come in and you're on the tail end of that, but you have expectations that you should be treated equally, I think you're just not setting yourself up for success in a situation like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I can see your point. It's just like a job, right? You don't go into the job expecting to, be the general manager in a week or 6 months or so. If there's another general manager, you have to prove yourself, and obviously, from our fights and things and stuff, they're very well proven, and they've done a good job. They've had their losses as well, but. They've just, again, I'll just say that, haven't been here long enough in a sense to be put in that position to run a campaign, or given that chance to run one because, we've been in a war for a year or so.
Right. Yeah, and Travis and Burn Eden were the group before. Tell us a little bit about them, if you remember many details about Travis.
Honestly, not much difference then. Sinners.
Right? Yeah, they're very similar. I was like, oh my God, we got Travis back, but it was a different group. But yeah, they were kind of the FC group for US time zone. They ran blobs. But Travis had been around.
They poach every USFC that they could to put in their course.
Yeah. This is a whole, what do they call it? Pokemon collecting, where you're picking up FCs and
exactly.
Yeah, that's funny. I think Shadu started that trend, and it's like, okay, I guess so. But the Travis had been around a long time. I mean, he went all the way back to OTEC days, even before OTEC.
Yeah.
I mean, for him to have clout was like, okay, it's natural. This guy has been around NC a long time. And, it was all the same kind of situation, except he wasn't new to the scene. Travis wasn't, so.
I mean, I will tell you that Travis goes back to Fix Alliance when I was in Bob, and I actually FC'd him.
You FC Travis? That's hilarious.
Yeah, when they were in Fix Alliance, and I was in Bob, yeah. So.
Why don't you FC anymore?
Because it's way more difficult to FC now than it was back then.
Yeah. You also don't fly Titans anymore, right? Because you were famously destroyed in BTAC-R.
Well, that really didn't have anything to do with why I didn't fly.
But it's fun to talk about, though, isn't it?
I like putting those two things together.
Well, it's really funny because so anybody that knows that fight thinks I jumped in with an unfitted ship. But when you look at my kill mills, you will see I didn't have an unfitted ship. I probably had one of the most expensive Titans on the field. So I'm kind of saddened that my kill mill didn't generate because of how shiny it was. But at the same token, it was probably a good thing it didn't, because I'd probably got slapped to China or something. I don't know. Yeah, Vince would have had my ass. But
all that bling wasted.
The thing for me is that when you jump in and you have to sit forever and wait to load, I hate it. And then they introduced fatigue like right after that fight, and or maybe it was right before. I don't remember. But
No, it was
fatigue.
after.
So fatigue came in, and
Are you talking about tie-dye probably? So you
no, I'm talking about fatigue. When you had to jump and wait for days. You could only jump so many systems, and then you had to wait like 24 hours before you can move again.
It's like 8 months after BTAC-R, but go ahead.
Yeah. And I think I sold my Titan probably about 4 or 5 months. I knew it was coming.
So you sold out because of fatigue. You didn't want to deal with fatigue.
I didn't want to deal with fatigue because I'm not the kind of person who can sit here and wait. Like if I have to go in real life, I have to go. I can't sit here and wait for 30 minutes per se. In a carrier or a dread or something like that, it's not really a big deal. I can hand it off to somebody and have them jump it. Or I can take an extra few days if I need to. When it's a Titan, there's a lot more pressure and stress to make sure you don't miss ops. And I didn't like the stress and the pressure of it. And that was before they adjusted fatigue. But I'm much happier not flying super capitals, so I don't.
Well, you got out of super capitals, and I was like, I should get out of super capitals too. And I was too lazy to do it, or I didn't find the time or to sell or whatever. But I keep thinking like I should do what Lady Scarlet does. She knows how to play this game.
Yeah. And a lot of our campaigns always happen around holidays and other things and stuff. And so it's like, okay, well, Vince, it's 4th of July. I'm going somewhere. I can't be here. Well, change your life. Yeah.
Well, he's British. What does he know? It's a bad day for him.
But yeah, for me, it's just too much responsibility. Plus I'm doing renters. Plus I'm doing other things. And when you're trying to do that and all that, it's just, no.
Yeah. I got you. All right. Well, I do think that you should FC. I know that you still do gate camps, or I think you still do gate camps.
Well, yeah, and I might actually be doing a little more here soon, so we'll see.
Really? What? Break some news here. What are you doing?
Well, you guys will, probably know in a couple weeks, but yeah, I'll be doing some fun stuff, I think, during my off time, so we'll see.
All right.
And it's summertime, you're allowed to lead dumb fleets and die without, getting yelled at too much. So I may just do that.
Well, you tell us so that we can actually film it. That would be hilarious. Lady Scarlet returns to FCing. Hasn't done it since 2006. But you do sit in gate camps, and you like that time, right? We'll end with this question, but tell us about the social environment of DICE and NCdot. What's it like hanging out with you guys?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the people who hang out. I think it's fun when we are able to get together and just hang out and do dumb stuff. There's no pressure, and it's. I don't know what to say. It's for me, it's fun. Other people may not think it's fun, but yeah.
I think I was looking for you like hanging out with your guys. You like hanging out with your corp.
Yeah, it's just an odd thing for me to answer, but it's always good to get the corp together, and it's good to have friends together and hang out and do dumb stuff. So,
and you did meet up a long time ago with DICE, your corporation, but you really stopped doing meetups for a long time until like around 2018, and then I think we went to eVegas, right? Was that the first time you got back into meetups?
Well, the original DICE meetup took place before eVegas was even a thing.
Right.
And that was just a group of people getting together. We had a Dreadnought. Some people know as Orange Species. He owned the original, very first Ragnarok that was ever built in the game. Was flying in from London. And so we kind of basically put a little meetup together, went and hung out and did some different things in Vegas. But the original eVegas was ran by goons after that, before CCP got involved. And my past relationship with goons was not good. And so I kind of refused to go into any goon ran events. Basically just the uncomfortableness and not knowing.
They were really mean to you, right? They were brutal. In fact, weren't some of the anti-harassment rules created based on your experience?
The EULA was changed a couple years ago based on some experiences that I and some other people had. Yes. But that was like a whole different game back then. This was pre-Matani. There's something awful days. This ended up with leadership getting banned for months at a time. It was just a really bad part of EVE. And so I just didn't really want anything to do at the time with that. But then NC came along. A lot of CCP Vegas is here. A lot of my friends were going. I got convinced to take the baby steps to go. And it was a great event. And I've been going ever since. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and then go ahead. Sorry, Rundle.
No, I was just asking, what about local meetups? Have you guys done it? Are you involved with those?
Yes. A matter of fact, I started going about 2 years ago, I think now, to EVE LA, which is hosted in Pasadena. We just had our very first post-COVID meetup about 3 weeks ago. We had about, Matarol, what did you say, 25, 30 people went to that? So it was a good number of people. And we will be restarting our second Saturday of the month meetups going forward in August.
Where's that one going to be?
That one will be in Pasadena as well. And I'm just, because we're here talking about, I'm also going to plug the EVE San Diego, which will be July 22nd in Poway. So anybody listening who wants to go to any of those can poke me and I'll invite you to the channel. So.
I might go to that one, actually. It's
me and Carneros are actually going to carpool up there. So
I'm not that close to you, but Who's the Fish from TIS is in the area and is wanting to go and hang out with you guys. And I might convince a few people from LA to go down there too. We'll see how that works out, but it'd be nice to support that too. Because, the Pasadena one was so much fun that we went to. It was really nice to see everybody. It's great. Everybody felt relief, right?
Great turnout, yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody got sick. Everybody was good. Everybody had their shots, yeah.
That's right. Awesome. Well, listen, thanks a lot for walking us through some memories and some current news and giving us your perspective on corporations and what it's like to be a long-term leader in this game and how not to burn out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there's lots of history there, right? I remember flying with you when I was in the Maverick Navy, when they were in NCdot, and you always have a personality on comms, so I kind of know what you're talking about, but I want to say thanks for joining us and allowing a little more one-on-one and walk back through history. Some of it I shared, some of it completely different, so it's nice to hear the perspectives. So thank you for that.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
By the way, somebody wants to know if DICE is recruiting.
Yeah, poke me in game and we can talk about it.
There you go. All right. You guys want to get into the big leagues? Contact Lady Scarlet. She is on Talking in Stations Discord. And thank you again, Lady, for being here today. Rundle, thanks a lot. Nick, we lost Shen to time. Thank you guys all for showing up today. We will wrap up now, and I don't know who we're going to raid, but stay tuned for something. And we will see you next time on Talking in Stations.